Episode 27. Even in such a hostile environment, Yeshu's hands remained perfectly steady. His focus was unwavering, his spirit unbroken. In the game, Lord Grimm continued his flawless performance, but his master, Yeshu, was already gasping for air, nearly strangled. Chen Guo finally let go, just as Yeshu's tongue was about to loll out. Yeshu coughed loudly, but his gaze remained fixed on the screen. He asked,
"What did you say?"
As he spoke, he freed a hand, snatched up the headset and barked into the mic.
Tianqi, check in, check in.
After shouting, he immediately tossed the headset aside, his hands flying back to the keyboard. He was so busy he didn't even have time to put it back on. In the game, the four of them were dealing with the boss. They were already down a man, so they couldn't afford to lose Yeshu's control of Lord Grimm. Chen Guo stared at the guy, completely out of ideas. She couldn't very well go over and strangle him, could she? With a sigh, Chen Guo sat back down and booted up the game on the computer in front of him.
Take me for a spin.
Yeshu glanced back.
That's the server.
I'm the boss.
Yeshu was speechless. This rule was far more effective than something like no using the server.
How am I supposed to play with you?
Yeshu asked without turning his head, locked in fierce combat with the boss.
I've got a 10th server account card too.
Chen Guo pulled out a card and waved it at Yeshu.
Right.
Yeshu just said oh and still didn't turn around. Chen Guo was so furious, she felt like strangling the guy on the spot, digging a hole in the backyard and burying him there.
Then get in the game and start your quests.
Forget the quests. Take me to a dungeon.
Chen Guo was feeling contrary. He'd decided that if Yeshu said east, he'd go west.
You're only level 1. How are you supposed to run a dungeon?
Yeshu said, Green Forest is the lowest level dungeon. It's for levels 5 to 10. Your character can't enter if it's under level 5.
You figure it out.
Alright. Let me think.
Yeshu hummed to himself, his fingers flying across the keyboard. Suddenly he snatched up the headset and spoke.
Hey Qian Shengli, get back to your position. You're about to get surrounded. What's going on with you guys? Quite a few mistakes.
He tossed the headset aside, only to hear the sharp crack of knuckles popping behind him. Chen Guo asked through gritted teeth.
Have you thought of a way yet?
Yeah, I've got one.
Chen Guo was astonished. This was a system setting that should have been impossible to resolve, yet this guy had found a way.
If you don't want the quest, just go kill monsters. Get to level 5 and you're done.
I'll kill you first.
Of course, Yeshu didn't get killed by Chen Guo, and of course Chen Guo couldn't enter the level 5 Green Forest at level 1. In the end, she could only log into her new server alt and, feeling rather lonely, go off to accept her quests. After all, this is still faster than grinding monsters. In the midst of his frantic pace, Yeshu finally spared a moment to glance back, his eyes catching the character on the screen as he remarked.
Chasing Haze. I feel like I've seen that ID somewhere before.
Chen Guo nearly smashed his head into the monitor. He bared his teeth and turned to say,
That's my main account's ID.
Ha! That explains it.
Yeshu had already turned his head back. Chen Guo suddenly realized that since she'd sat down, aside from that one glance he'd given her when she first put on the face mask, she hadn't seen the front of his face since. It's just a skeleton graveyard. Is that really worth such intense focus? But thinking it over just made me more resigned, because that level of focus really was necessary. In the skeleton graveyard dungeon, the spawns are wildly unpredictable. A moment's inattention, and a pile of scattered bones might assemble into a skeleton, or one might claw its way out of loose soil. This dungeon has no fixed route or set targets. Every run is a fresh challenge, demanding constant vigilance and sharp reflexes. Especially since Yeshu's team only had 4 members, they needed to focus even more. Looking at it this way, every move Yeshu made was perfectly reasonable. My own anger was completely unjustified. So Chen Guo had no choice but to keep grinding through the beginner quests, all the while stewing in her frustration. It had only been a day since the 10th server opened, and the beginner zones were still swarming with new players. This made Chen Guo's task progress anything but smooth. Even a top-tier expert like Yeshu had taken 2 hours to finish his tasks in this environment. Chen Guo was no exception. Even though the situation was a bit better than yesterday, the fundamental problem of queuing up to fight monsters remained unchanged. Suddenly a cold voice drifted over from the side.
Just as I thought.
Chen Guo's anger flared. Was he mocking her now? But when she looked back, Ye Shu already had his headphones on. He was still focused, running the dungeon with his team. Was that meant for me? Chen Guo muttered to herself. In the end, it wasn't right to keep making a fuss. She could only go back to silently whacking monsters. Yi Xu's team made it through the skeleton crypt dungeon in the end, but it was a close call. The process was full of twists and turns. Tianqi and the other two just couldn't keep up with the dungeon's mechanics. Those skeletons that popped up out of nowhere, they got hit by them 9 times out of 10. When the final boss fell, Tianqi and the other two were drenched in sweat. If Ye Shu hadn't swapped in Yue Zhongmian, they would have never cleared this dungeon. It's not that this dungeon's difficulty requires a top-tier expert to carry the team, it's that the damage output is so high and consistent, you absolutely need a saint to focus on healing. Clearly, this dungeon was another lesson from the starter village, teaching new players the importance of class synergy. With Ye Shu's Lord Grim there, healing, dealing damage, and tanking all at once, they just bulldozed right through the skeleton cave. After exiting, Ye Shu glanced back. Chen Guo was still queuing in the beginner's area, so he paid her no mind and entered the dungeon once more. The 3 of them, Tianqi and his companions, were feeling a bit uneasy. They couldn't shake the suspicion that they were holding the expert back. With his skills, he could easily find teammates far more capable than them. If they didn't step up their game, what if he decided to ditch them? This time, Tianqi and the other two focused with 120% intensity. They moved with extreme caution, and their reaction speed to the sudden emergence of skeletons improved dramatically. As a result, their progress through the dungeon accelerated significantly. The Skeleton Tomb dungeon also has 3 hidden bosses: the Skeleton Warrior, the Skeleton Mage, and the Skeleton Lord. But in this dungeon you don't get a prompt at the entrance about whether a hidden boss will appear. That's because all 3 are highly elusive. They can emerge from any patch of shadow at any moment. Only then would the system give the prompt. It's not uncommon for unlucky teams to find their system prompt flashing just as a party member gets one-shot by the boss. With Ye Shu at the helm, such a careless mistake was out of the question. After clearing the dungeon a second time, even more smoothly than the first, the hidden boss still hadn't appeared. With 2 dungeon runs complete, Ye Shu glanced back at Chen Guo. She was still out there, fully focused on fighting other players for mobs just outside the starter village. Ye Shu leaned in for a closer look, checking Chen Guo's character level. It was already level 4, and would soon hit 5.
Let's run it one more time.
Ye Shu thought to himself, rushing in again. Tianqi and the other 2 didn't hesitate either, slashing, killing, moving forward. Suddenly, a crooked tombstone ahead gave a slight shudder. Tianqi and the other 2, unaware, kept walking forward. Ye Shu was already shouting in alarm.
Fall back.
The 3 of them now executed Ye Shu's orders without a second thought, leaping back in unison. Lord Grim's figure had already flashed through their midst. With a slight shudder, the tombstone suddenly burst from the earth with a crash, flying straight toward the 4 of them.